Hey guys, welcome back to Jaws Technology Solutions. Been a few weeks, been a little busy on projects. For all of my newest subscribers, thank you for subscribing. I try to put out content as much as possible, but then projects come up and then I lose track of time, etc. and so forth. So today what I'm going to do is do a video on a clustered Elasticsearch with basically security going between the nodes. And so before I jump into that though, I'm going to recap. What's the importance of having security, especially security on your scene, is so that people can't get into your data and see what's going on in your network, right? And so if you haven't looked at the video with setting a minimal security on Elasticsearch, go ahead and go back to that video first and watch it. And basically all I did on that video was basically turn on XPack security, which you'll see in this video. And I did the transport SSL also, which is in the previous video. And that allows you to generate passwords for all your different components inside of Elasticsearch. And then whenever you go to get to this right here, this address, whatever address your node is, with the 5601 port, that says, hey, I have to put in a password for Elastic. So all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and move straight into this. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up 3 nodes. We're going to have our main node, which is what we've already created, and then I'm going to slowly add in the nodes because I've done this a few times, and there's a few times where I ran into speed bumps. And so I'm going to try it from a different perspective this time and see if it will all work out correctly. If it does, great. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is one I've already set up. This is my initial node that I've created, and I'm going to set up the other 2 nodes, and you're going to see them populate under this right here, which is, if you set up your initial node in the other video, then you've already seen this. But anyway, I would just hit that the 3 lines right there, and I would go down to static monitoring, and this is where it pops me into. And then even so actually it pops you in right here to this page. And this is a little slow coming virtually. It'll pop you in right here, and then you click on the nodes, and then you'll see what I just saw. So anyway, let's go ahead and run through the configuration of the initial node just as a review real quick. All right, so I'm going to do a nano Elasticsearch. It's the Elasticsearch, and then look at my YAML file. And this is what it looks like. I already have the cluster name in there. I already have the node name. I've already configured the IP address, and then you'll see here that I pulled this from a template, and so it already has all 3 of the nodes I'm going to be using, but I commented that out and did put the single node as the initial startup. So this will be changed as we move along in this video, but I just wanted to show you that. Same thing down here. I pulled this from a template, so I'll be uncommenting all these extra lines right here for the transport SSL. All right, so you see that. I'm going to exit out of this one and go to my Kibana one. And in the previous video, you saw where I generated the passwords, and then I added the password for the Kibana system, and so you'll see that here as well. I need to verify. Well, it should be good. All right, so yeah, I already replaced that password, or else it wouldn't work. All right, and again, you see here where I have the Elasticsearch host. Well, I'll come back and I'll put the other 2 nodes in here as well. So just keep that in mind. And then I'm gonna cover this further. But you'll also want to go ahead and enable your file beat. So you'll type in the file beat command and then modules, enable system, and you'll have that. And then you also have the metric beat, modules, enable, and you'll type in Elasticsearch XPack. And this is what allows metric beat to basically monitor your nodes, or each node individually. There you go. And so since I won't be too repetitive, so since I've already shown you that, I'm going to wait until I actually configure the other 2 nodes to show you what happens next. All right, so that's done. So let's go ahead and hop over to our second node just to make sure everything's good, which I have right here. All right, so this one still needs to update. So I'm going to go ahead and do a sudo su, and I'm going to go ahead and put my password in. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my pre-done command for updating and then paste that in there and let that do its thing. And then probably the same thing for lab scene 3. Yep. So I haven't done anything either of these 2, so you'll get to see that from scratch. All right, so do a sudo su and then put in your password for that node. And by the way, just so you can understand the architecture of this, I have 3 separate Ubuntu servers set up, and I'm installing Elasticsearch, Kibana, FileBeat, and Metric Beat on one of them, and then I'm installing Elasticsearch, and file beat and metric beat on the other 2 of them. You can do Kibana on all of them. I'm just not doing it that way. So for the purposes of this lab, I'm just putting Kibana on one and setting it up to pull from all 3 of the nodes. All right, so while that does its thing and then this does its thing, I'm gonna go back to this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and, since I already have a connection to them now, and by the way, I'm using remote NG, which is just one of many different clients you can use to connect over SSH. So just keep that in mind too. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just try to not blaze through it, but I'm not going to be slow about it. All right, so I'm going to go back to my webpage right here, and you can find this on the elastic.co website. I'm going to go ahead and bring that over here so that I can grab things and start throwing it in there. All right, so what you're going to see me do now is I'm going to go ahead and generate the CA and the certificates that are going to be needed for all 3 nodes. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a CD. I'm going to CD to the user share Elasticsearch bin file. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the first command and the basic security portion. And that's going to be right here. So I'm already in the bin directory, so you don't have to copy the bin piece. What is important to do is go ahead and do a // and right click. So this way you're running that. And then this is a lab, so I'm not going to put a password on it. But just bear in mind that if you're in a production environment, absolutely put a password on it. All right. And so that's going to generate, and then you can do an ls tech lah, and I think it's in the directory of, I did that backwards. So do an ls, and then my other node just rebooted, so that's why that's popping up. Tag lah, and then do a tag / and then it's going to show you right there. And I did this because it's in the directory above the bin, it's not in the bin directory. All right, so you see it's right here, so that's been generated. All right, now what you're going to do next, again, pretty simple. I'm still in the correct directory, so I just did the ls to show me the other directory. So what I'm going to do here, again, I'm still in the bin directory, and then I'm going to do a period / and then right click and paste that in. So what this is doing is generating your certificate. And it's saying enter your password for your CA. I didn't put one in there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. It's going to say enter the desired output for your certificate. I'm just going to leave it default, and then it's going to ask you to make a password for your certificate. Again, I'm just going to leave it blank. All right. So do it ls tech lah, and then again you can do the // just to look in the bin ahead. But yeah, it's right here. So you see the certificate right there, and that's all you do. That's as easy as it is to set up a CA and a certificate. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and do a, okay, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that directory. So I'm going to do a cd .. That's going to put you in your the directory above you. And I'm going to do an ls tag lah, make sure I'm good. And then I'm going to go ahead and move, actually, you know what, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy the certificate itself into the Elasticsearch Etsy if I can say it straight, Etsy / Elasticsearch directory. And then I'm going to go ahead and CD over there. All right, so you see it's right here. Here's my certificate. So right here, so typically what I do, depending on your environment, you know, you can set up permissions whatever way you want to, but make sure you set it, especially if it's production, make sure you set up your permissions so that they're correct for whatever you're doing. And in this case, I'm just going to I'm going to make root the owner and put it in the Elasticsearch group, and I'm going to allow everybody to read it. Again, for security, make sure you put the correct permissions for whatever you're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So it's already owned by root. It's already in the Elasticsearch directory. So I'm going to do a chmod ugo + write, or excuse me, read, and I'm going to lock onto that and then hit enter. All right, so now if you do another LA or ls tech lah, you'll see that everybody can read it now, and that's sitting right there. Okay. All right, so that's done. So since these guys are probably already back, I'm going to have to go ahead and hit reconnect. All right, so I'm going to do a sudo su, and again, these guys don't have anything on them. They're brand new servers, virtual servers, and so I'm going to go ahead and add in the repository, which is right here. All right, so I'm going to grab this, put it in there, put a tech y, so I don't have to answer any questions. It'll just throw it in there for me. We'll grab the curl, so you're grabbing the GPG key. All right, and then well, not lastly, but second to last, I'm going to grab the Elasticsearch list. And I manually usually just type in apt-get update manually because that's the fastest way to do it. And I'm sure that node 3 is the same. I'm gonna do the same thing with this. I'm going to do reconnect. All right, I'm gonna do sudo su. Remember, keep in mind that you have to be root to do most of this stuff. So I just go ahead and become root. It's the easiest way to do it. All right, so once again, go back over here. Copy that. Start. Must start. Enter. I'm going to go ahead and curl over the GPG key. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and grab the echo and echo that into my repo. All right. And then do an apt-get update. I know it's kind of like a step back, but basically all I'm doing is adding in the repo, updating it, and this way I can just go see. I'm going to go back to node 2, and all I'm going to do is type in apt-get install Elasticsearch and filebeat and metric beat, and then do attack Y. And before I hit enter on that, I'm going to go and grab that command, and too much. I'm going to go and grab that command, hit enter on that, and now I'm going to go to my third node, right click, and hit enter again. All right, so all that's installing. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and do an SCP, and I'm going to target that cert. And what you're basically doing is you're secure copying that certification to your other two nodes so that they can communicate securely. And so I'm going to do Dylan at 10.1.1.71, and then if you're not familiar with Linux, the permissions can be tricky sometimes. So what I'm doing is, since the Dylan user has permissions to my directory, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in my directory. And when I go over to the other node, I'm going to become root, which gives me God mode, as they say, God mode. And that's going to give me the ability to move it into the Elasticsearch directory. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So hit yes, and then put your password in for your user you're trying to log into, and bam, it's over there. All right, so this should be done. Yep. So you're going to do an ls, and then bam, you'll see the certificate sitting right there. So do move Elasticsearch, and then move it to your Elasticsearch directory under etc. And then you're going to cd over there as well. ls tag lah, and on the second node, this is what I wanted to point out. So on the second node, you see that Dylan's the owner and Dylan's the group. And then there's the certificate. So what I typically do is I do a chown root and then target that file. And now I'm going to do a change group and then give it to the Elasticsearch group. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and do mod ugo plus R, and then again give everybody read writes to it. All right, so ls tag lah, and it looks good. Okay. All right, so now at this point we have generated the certificates and moved them over to the second node at least. And I'm gonna do this one by one so that there's no issues with that. So what I mean by that is, in the past I've thrown configurations into the other two nodes and it didn't come up right. It took me forever to figure it out. So this time I'm just gonna do it one by one. All right, so next we're gonna do a nano Elasticsearch. And see, this is a completely blank configuration. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit out of that, and I'm going to do a rm tech rf, which recursively is not really a thing here, but I just put in there out of habit, so don't mind that. So I'm going to remove that file and then nano it again to create a brand new file, and I'm going to go over to my template and paste my entire template in there. And again, mind you, I'm not doing all this yet, so I'm going to go ahead and this, for the purposes of this lab, I know it's a little tedious, but I'm just going to go ahead and basically comment out the things I don't need yet, and I'm going to paste in there the things I do need. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that down here, and I'm going to change this to 2. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this the other way. I'm going to go ahead and get in on that. Do that, and then I'm going to grab the cluster and then grab both of these. And then same thing up here. So once we configure the third node, I will come back and add that in. All right, and comment out that it won't start if your configuration is not correct. So be mindful of that. All right, so right here I need to change the network host to 7.1, and I need to change the node name to LabSeam 2. And I'm also going to comment out the cluster just so that doesn't become a problem. All right, so looks good, and then all that looks good. Okay, so Control O, write that file. Now we're doing systemctl, enable Elasticsearch. Tag now. So at least this gets it started, and that's what we want for now. We want to just get it started. All right, and while that's doing that, I think they already, yeah, so I already started this piece of it, so I'm just going to leave that be for just a moment. And while these things are waiting to start, you can kind of skip through the video as you need to, just so you're not waiting on it like me. And actually, you know what, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to go back to the Elasticsearch and go ahead and add that one in there. I know there's a lot of moving parts to this, so just bear with it. So I'm going to try this and just hopefully it works out. I'm just going to go ahead and, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and comment that stuff out. All right, so systemctl, that is Elasticsearch. All right, so that's up and running. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. I think I said that backwards. I meant uncommented. There you go. All right, so I'm going to Control O this. And I'm going to go to LabSeam 2, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a nano, etsy, Elasticsearch, YAML. I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this too. I think where I may have messed up last time is not fully stopping everything and then restarting it. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this as well. And then what I'm going to do is come back and basically just shut everything down and start it back up. All right, and also running back to the website real quick, this is very important. So scroll down on the website, and this is basically what we've already done. It says add, your cluster name, add your node name, and then add in the transport SSL stuff. And then here's the important part. So right here, you need to add the XPack transport SSL key store secure password, and this is basically for the certificate. So whenever I'm gonna go back to the first node and go ahead and add that in there. Sorry, so we need to go back to user share Elasticsearch bin, do another period / and then go ahead and copy this line right here. Copy, paste it. And again, this is asking for your certificate password, so I don't have one as you saw earlier, so I'm going to add both these in there, that way that's done. And try not to highlight the entire thing like I just did. All right, then go ahead and go to LabSeam 2 and the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and add it in there, that way it's done, that way I don't forget about it. Because sometimes some of these steps can get complicated, so I'm trying to avoid that. So I just added I already had the trust store in there, so I'm going to go ahead and add that in there since it was already on my clipboard. Now I'm going to come back up top and grab this one. Same thing. Alright. Alright, so that's done. That's completed. So now what I'm going to do is go back to my seam, and I'm going to go ahead and do a systemctl stop Elasticsearch. So I'm going to do a full stop on that. I'm going to go back here and do a systemctl, same thing, stop Elasticsearch, do a full stop on that. And what I don't want to forget to do is do the file beat modules enable system, and also the metric beat modules enable Elasticsearch XPack. And what I will go ahead and do while we're sitting here is I'm going to go ahead and do the what was it, the nano etsy file beat YAML, and I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that and clear that file and then recreate it with the pre-configurations. I'll reach back down to my notepad, grab the file beat sample, go ahead and grab that entire thing, paste it in there. And if you want to go back up and make sure that pasted correctly, I would recommend it. Alright, so right here you're going to have your hosts, and this is your whole array of hosts, so for all 3 nodes. And you're going to have load balance true, so it load balances between the nodes. And then right here you're going to uncomment the username if it were commented, and you're going to put the password in that you generated before. Alright, so go ahead and do a Control O on that, exit out, and then same thing for your metric beat configuration file. Go ahead and just hop out of there, do a tech-rf metric beat.yaml, and do that right there, and then go ahead and I already have mine pre-done too for your metric beat. Alright, so go ahead and do that. Make sure your password looks good, make sure your username looks good, make sure your array of hosts looks good, and good to go. So Control O. Alright, here's the other fun part. This I don't have a template for, so try to pay attention as closely as possible. So do your Elasticsearch XPack YAML. And then for these right here, you want to put the corresponding IP of that server. So go to a 10.1.1.71. And your user is what you generated earlier. And that's going to be right here. So your remote monitoring user, go ahead and copy that, paste it in there. Your secret is the generated password. Copy that, paste it in there, and then make sure you uncomment these guys. Go ahead and Control O that to write it, exit out. Alright, so this is going to be the interesting part. So I'm going to do a systemctl enable file beat. Type now. That's going to start file beat and enable it. I'm going to go and do the same thing for metric beat. And I'm hoping these will pop up correctly. Oh, double typed. There it is. And so what it's going to do is some of it's going to fail because the third node is not set up yet, and some of it's going to be okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and come back to the lab scene 1, and I'm going to go ahead and do a start. I'm going to go ahead and copy that command. Do a start. So now we're starting the first 2 nodes. Again, the third node is not configured yet, but this is just getting to a point where we can see things under our stack monitoring that we would like to see. And it's going to give you all these error messages right now because I just restarted Elasticsearch. I'm going to blow this back up just so we can see the full thing. And I might have to refresh here in a moment. Alright, so this has already started, so let's go into a systemctl status Elasticsearch. Uh-oh, mistyped. What did I miss? The S. Alright, so that's running. I'm going to do a refresh on this guy. Hopefully it doesn't kick me out. Make sure that the other node started, which it looks like it did. All right, so let's go back to this and see what's going to happen. It should pop in there here in a moment if everything's correct. And I'm going to go back and double check my Elasticsearch just to make sure it's good to go. Lab seam cluster, lab seam 2. Yep, all those things are commented the way they're supposed to be commented, and I'm going to exit out of that. All right, so let me go and do an enter setup mode, and we have that doing what it's supposed to do. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go back and restart my file beat and metric beat on lab seam 2. And it might just be taking a moment to pop in there. All right, so one way to test this, even if it's not popping up here, is to go into the Discover on the Elasticsearch. So let's do that real quick. So I'm gonna go over here to Discover under the Analytics, and we see right here. Okay, sorry, pick that. So this is loading the documents. And then go ahead and hit agent hostname. So it's seeing it, so it's just taking a minute to pop up in the static monitoring, but it is definitely seeing it in here. And you can also drop down on the metric beat and choose file beat instead. I know this video is already almost 30 minutes at this point, so I'm trying to be quick about adding in the third node. And it's basically all generally the same stuff. You just have to put the lab seam 3 in there if that's what you're choosing to name it. You have to also change the corresponding IP. And again, this is a little slow because it's a virtual environment and I'm running it remotely. So, all right, so you can just hit the agent host name. So we see lab seam 2 in here, which is a good thing. I don't see the lab seam 1 for some reason, but that's no biggie. All right, so go ahead and drop this down back to static monitoring, and hopefully we'll see it in there like it's supposed to be. And it has not popped in there yet for some reason. I might need to point to, so let's try that real quick. And sometimes it just takes a minute for it to hop in there, so don't be discouraged if it's not happening right away. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna hop back over to metric beat and just, oh, there it is. See, it takes a minute to pop in. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop over to lab seam 3 because in the interest of time, we're trying to get this done. So LAH. All right, so we don't have anything in there, and so I need to copy this over. So let's go ahead and hit Control O, and I'm gonna try to find this in my history as fast as possible. Should have just grabbed it, I know. Like I'm almost there. I'm not almost there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use the other way of just finding it and doing it manually. All right, so keep in mind we're back on node 1 at this point, and I'm doing an SCP of that certificate over to the 10.1.1. Or you know what? I'm messing up. Dylan at 10.1.1.72. And again, this is going to be home Dylan because that's where I have permissions at. It's going to ask for a fingerprint, yes, and ask me for a password. Put that in there, and I'm going to kind of sort of fly through this so that because in the interest of time and whatnot, and I already showed you how to do the second node, so we're going to do wrong node. We're going to go over to node 3. We're going to do move. Actually, you know what? Did I already put it in there? Okay, it is already there. No, that's lab scene 3. See, this is the part where you can get a little confused, so sorry about that. So I'm on node 3 now. Etsy Elasticsearch, and it's not there. Okay, so that's what I thought, because I didn't remember copying it before. So we're on the third node. We're in my home directory, and I'm moving the Elasticsearch certificate over to the Etsy Elasticsearch directory. And then we're going to go ahead and CD over there. And we see it right there. Okay, so let's go into a chown root. And then instead of doing out the whole path, I'm just going to type out the file name faster. Chown change group, the Elasticsearch. And then, oopsie, I've had chown in front of that, which doesn't work. All right, and then we're going to do a chmod ugo plus R, same thing. All right, and let's go do our nano Elasticsearch YAML. All right, completely blank. That's good. Go ahead and hit home key to get over there faster. RM tech RF, and then do a renano, and then go over. I'm gonna grab my template. All right, all this is in there, and I'm just gonna leave all this the same except for the IPs. 7.2 for my third node, and then it's gonna be called lab scene 3. And then I'm just gonna leave the cluster uncommented. And just so you guys know, the reason why I was conflicted about commenting or uncommenting is, like I said in the past, I've uncommented everything, and then I guess I just didn't fully turn off everything and turn it back on to reboot the cluster or whatever. But that's why I was doing that. But we see that it worked for the second node, so I'm just going to continue on with the third node the same way. All right, so we have the YAML file configured for Elasticsearch. We have the certificate moved over, and now before we forget, let's run grab that command to put it into the trust store. So I'm going to copy this off the website, and then remember, go ahead and CD over to your user share Elasticsearch bin, do a // paste it in there. All right, and then same thing with the second one. Go ahead and grab that command too and copy it. I hate when I do that. So what I would do also, guys, is I would grab these commands and put them into a notepad, because you never know if this web page is going to be here or not. Sometimes, you know, it could go down or whatever. So I always try to have local documents I can refer back to in order not to lose anything. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I hit copy on that. Go back to my terminal, paste it in there, and don't forget to put your // in there. All right, hit enter. Awesome. Go ahead and do a systemctl enable Elasticsearch tech now, and give that just a moment to boot up. All right, so we have two nodes, and while that is starting up on the third node, this is kind of sort of what you're wanting to see here. So this is the whole point of having a distributed cluster. So if lab scene 1 goes down, then lab scene 2 and 3 can pick it up whenever lab scene 3 gets in here, and then you also have more storage across. And so I'm not going to say that I know all the details behind how Elasticsearch works. However, I do know that whenever you cluster things together, you have more storage space distributed for your cluster for logging. And if something goes down, then you have something to pick it back up. So you have some kind of redundancy, you have some kind of capacity, things like that. So in a moment here, if I have time, which I'm at 34 minutes, I'm trying to be quick. Once I get my third lab scene up, or my third node up rather, I keep saying lab scene. When I get my third node up, I'll go ahead and start importing some logs to show you how that works. And I'm sure that there might have been one in a previous video, but if you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and do that again. So going back to my third node, since it should be up by now. All right, so that's good. So let's go ahead and run over and do our file beat and metric beat, so that way it'll come in here and pop in here like it's supposed to. Let's go to a nano Etsy file beat, and I'm just going to try to be super quick. Go ahead and exit out of that. Do a RM tech RF. Renano. Go grab your template if you have one. If not, then you have to do it manually. All right, all that looks good. So do a Control O, exit out, and also remember make sure your modules are enabled. And the way you can tell that is if you don't know, you can just do the FileBeat modules list, and then you can scroll up and it will, too fast. It'll have right here what is enabled and what's disabled. So obviously there's no modules enabled there. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the FileBeat modules enable system. All right, and then also same thing for metric beat. I'll go ahead and do that since that command can be annoying to type all the way out. All right, so that's already done. So let's go into a nano metric beat .yaml. All right, go ahead and exit out. RM tag RF nano, and then go grab your metric beat file if you have one again. Copy. Scroll up. Make sure all that's good. All right, that looks good. Go ahead and do a Control O. Write it. And then again, I don't have a template for the Elasticsearch tag XPack, so I have to type it out. But again, you'll find that under the metric beat modules and then Elasticsearch. And once again, guys, make sure this is your corresponding IP. So since I'm on my third node, this is going to be 10.1.1.72. And then again, this is going to be my remote user. So go ahead and hop over to your password you copied before. Copy it, paste it in there. Again, same thing with the secret. Copy it. I would highly recommend writing scripts for this. If you know how to write scripts, I would do it that way because that would automate most of this stuff, and that way you wouldn't have to deal with it. So anyway, so good there, good there. And let's go ahead and do a systemctl enable FileBeat now. Same thing with metric beat. All right, so we're going to let that do its thing. I'm going to come back over here to the cluster. I'm going to go back to the Discover just to make sure we're picking it up, because as you saw, we saw it in the Discover tab almost immediately, but we did not see it in the stack monitoring almost immediately, so hoping that that wasn't a problem, which it turned out not to be because it popped in there eventually. All right, so let's see if they popped in there. So LabScene 3 is now popping in there, which is good. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop this down and go to metric beat to make sure all three are showing. All right, agent hostname, and we have all three showing. Awesome, so that's exactly what we want to see in the Discover tab. So I'm going to try to, hopefully this is not going to be too slow. All right, so going down to the stack monitoring. Come on. All right, and there we go. So we have our third node in there, which is exactly what we want. Of course it's not. Oh, that's funny. So it says 3 nodes in there. Maybe I need to refresh it. I might refresh the entire web page just to make sure it's pulling everything. Oh, and another thing while we're waiting on that to come in, go back to your LabScene 3, and I forgot to do this, of course. Do a nano, Etsy, Kibana, and make sure you add all 3 hosts into your Elasticsearch so that way it pulls from all 3 of them. And make sure they're their corresponding IPs as well. 70, 71, 72. Perfect. Go ahead and write that. Do a Control X and then do a system CTL restart Kibana. And that's going to knock all this off. So just try to give it a moment. Try to be patient. It's going to start throwing all these errors. And hopefully it doesn't just completely destroy everything I did. Alright guys, so there you have it. So I stopped the video and I started re-recording again because I didn't want that to take too long. But you see right here, all my nodes are back up. All I did was go in there, change the Kibana configuration like you saw a moment ago. And then I added in the third node, and then I did a full stop on the Kibana, not the Elasticsearch nodes, but only on the Kibana. And then I started it back up, and then I waited about 3 or 4 minutes, and then I refreshed the page, which brought me back to the login, and then I logged in with my Elastic user. And then all I did was navigate here, and bam, there you go. So anyway, guys, I know this was a long video. I know it takes a lot of work. It's kind of tedious. But the entire point of this is to just see how you basically cluster nodes in Elasticsearch, and that way you have more storage capacity. It's distributed, so if something goes down, again, then you have the ability to keep your seam up. And as a quick little bonus, I will throw on here, if I can remember the password to it. It has been a minute since I logged into my lab firewall. I will go ahead and throw on the NetFlow logs. Bam, it let me in there. I must have mistyped it last time. All right, so what you're going to do, this is OpenSense for those of you that don't know. I have videos on OpenSense, so go back and check those out too. It's a little out of date, but what I'm going to do here is show you how this works. And so I go into, where is it at? Reporting, sorry, I was looking in the wrong spot. And then go under settings. Nope, NetFlow. All right, so right here you see is logged into it's basically sending logs to itself as home address. And then right here is an old, I think that's an older one. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in the correct ones. And this is gonna be on port 2055. And I'm gonna go ahead and put all 3 nodes in there. And the whole point of that is to send, so it's gonna send logs to all 3 nodes. That way is load balancing. And I'm going to show you what you have to do in order to make this work out too on the other side. So this right here is set up, and so I'm going to go ahead and hit save or apply. Hit my drink. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply there and let that do its thing. And then I'm going to go back to my terminal, and I'm going to go ahead and do, come on. Oh, we didn't quit. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and do FileBeat modules, if I can type right, NetFlow, and that's going to enable the NetFlow module. And now I'm going to do nano etsy FileBeat modules NetFlow, and in this right here I'm going to go ahead and aim this at the correct address, and I'm going to go ahead and do a Control O. I'm going to do a system CTL restart FileBeat. All right, so that should take just a moment. I'm going to go back to my stack, and I'm going to go to, I wonder if I need to rerun. I might need to rerun it. But anyway, so I just set up the NetFlow module, and then I'm going to come to my dashboards, type in NET, and it's going to show NetFlow overview. And it might take just a moment for those logs to start coming in, but they will. That's on a 10-second reload, so we should see that coming in here in just a moment. Anyway, guys, as another recap, sorry, I know I keep recapping, but basically the entire point of this video was to establish a clustered, distributed / clustered Elasticsearch setup, and that way capacity, redundancy again, and going from there, you can basically continue building out your scene. I will do another video on doing more security with this and bringing more logs in. It's too easy, really. And so keep on trucking through the other videos that I have doing this type of stuff. Let's see if it's going to pop in here. Come on, I know it wants to. Sometimes it takes just a moment for everything to start going correctly. Do a full page refresh. So I'm gonna go back over here real quick just to make sure it is good to go. Do a systemctl stop file beat. I'll go back to the firewall and make sure I didn't need to restart that service. All right, let's go back over here and see if it's going to populate. All right, so now what I'm going to do, since that's not working out correctly at the moment, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Discover tab and see if we even have any logs coming in that say NetFlow on them. All right, so we do have some kind of NetFlow coming in. It's just not coming in on the dashboards just yet, which is fine. Sometimes that happens. Yep. So we do definitely have traffic coming in from NetFlow. So let me go back to the dashboard real quick and see if it's going to load up. Ah, there we go. How about that? So all this will start populating. All right, guys. Anyway, I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. But anyway, again, I've already said what the recap was a couple times, but now. So now, if you like this video, please comment on it. Tell me how you feel about it. I've got tough skin, so constructive criticism is awesome. If you like it, please share it with your buddies. Especially if you're in IT. If you're in IT, right now we're experiencing. We have a bunch of IT people, which is great. But we also need cybersecurity people. So whether you're blue team, red team, purple team, whatever, it's always great to have this kind of stuff. You need to know how it functions as a red teamer so that you can bypass it, or try to find ways around it. You need to be, if you're a blue teamer, you need to know how to understand how this works so you can bring in as much information as possible and parse through it and categorize it so you can understand whether or not you're being attacked or something bad happens on the network or whatever. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for your support. Please subscribe to my channel. A new goal that I thought about As you know, I told you in past videos that I'm not worried about a bunch of, I'm not worried about popularity or being famous or whatever. But I do appreciate the subscribers. So if I can hit at least 1,000 subscribers, I would say probably by the end of the month or the end of the next month, that'd be great. So please share it with your buddies. Please like it, and we'll move forward. But thanks, guys. You have a great week and have a good one.